Yo, what's good, everybody, man? Welcome. This is ITUTv, bro. And this is an early release episode. We had to come to you guys correct. There's a lot going on in the markets right now. And I'm sitting down, and me and Michael Franz are shooting shit, man. We talking, and we're like, dude, yo, we got to let them know what's going on. We got to let them know what we see happening, what's coming in the news, what's Jerome Powell talking about, what's going on with the CPI data reports. Bro, what's next? So Mike's like, man, look, we got to let them know. So we're coming at y'all with the early release bonus episode. We've got more episodes coming into ITUTv for you guys publicly, but right now we take care of the community. You know what I mean? We got to grow. We got to make sure our students are getting up to speed as we get into the next year. We're going to be prepared to buy up the market. You know what I'm saying? So look, here's a bonus release episode. I hope you guys enjoy. We talked about a lot. We got a lot more coming at you. Hey, come be a part of us. You're more than welcome to join our Telegram community. We do have a beautiful Facebook group you can be a part of. Hey, we're here to take care of you guys and leave some crumbs along the way as we make our way up into this trading game. All right, you guys enjoy. I'm out. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. We're here at ITUTv, and we're here to talk with you guys about a lot. I do have a special guest with us that is just a part of the family, part of the community. Love to have him here. Michael Franz, welcome to the podcast, brother.
I appreciate you. Thank you, bro. We're glad to be here, and I'm glad to inform the people of what's going on here.
Most definitely. It's been a lot going on. It's been a crazy year, especially after we've got the pandemic, we've got possible war going on and things of that nature. So it's nice to come into the end of the year as we prepare to close out the year, the last quarter, and see what's going on. Now, today we're talking about CPI, PCE, PPI, things that Jerome Powell has been talking about the last few months, and what we've dealt with the Fed this entire year. Where we start at here, Mike?
Well, I think the first thing is to understand what the Fed is and who Jerome Powell is, because if you can understand where things are coming from, you can start reading, like I call it reading people, right? So if you can read Jerome Powell, you can kind of read what the markets are going to have in some form of an effect, right? So what have I learned in regards to Jerome Powell? First of all, the Jerome Powell is the head of the Fed, right? And he's the one that makes the announcements. He's the one that causes market movement. He's the last person in the line of defense for the Fed. What is the Fed? The Fed is actually a privately owned bank. Okay. So even though it says Fed, it is not owned by our government. It is a privately owned bank. It just has enough money and enough power to loan to our government, more than what JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, etc. They don't have the funds. They don't have the ability of printing money. That's the Fed themselves, right? So these two, they're two separate entities that work together. Okay, so
and understanding how we keep our government funding up for overseas war and things of that nature by utilizing the Fed printing money.
Oh yeah, because what will happen is that a bill will pass or something will pass, money will be printed off and sent out, and the agreement between our government and the Fed is, okay, this is what we're going to do. Go ahead and print it off, which they said they're not going to print money this year, but everything falls into a budget. It's supposed to fall into an annual budget that gets planned for every fourth quarter for the next year, right?
Yeah.
So if everything falls into the budget, the Fed says, do whatever you want with it, but you're going to pay this money back at this interest rate. Okay. So it's just like any other bank, right? So when we're sitting here thinking, oh, well, the Fed should just print off all this money. Oh, they should give us a stimulus. Oh, they should do this. Oh, they should do that. Think about what it's going to cost you afterwards, right? Which is why we're in this position that we're in now. A lot of people don't understand that printing off, what was it, $7 trillion or something like that?
Easily.
40% of our circulating cash period was done in 1 year. Like that was a perfect setup for where we're at now, because all inflation is, all this stuff, it's money that gets funneled every which way to pay money that's been given out, right? So do I want to stimulus? No.
We put ourselves in a position, I'm hearing across the board, global debt crisis. What are we saying? Like things could possibly get astronomically worse for everybody, not even just Americans now.
Yeah, yeah, and then you got to think of who's at the top, right? What countries are at the top? Because at that point, it becomes a bargaining opportunity.
Are we
Oh,
talking
you're
China?
this. Yes,
We're
that's
talking
that's
Russia?
the that's the those are, yeah, number one, and I would say number two, except for the fact that right now all the sanctions, this, that, and the other, it's hard for people to believe that Russia could be up in that top. But let me tell you, with their exports, they definitely up there with control. Which is why I tell everybody this war that's going on between Ukraine and Russia, and there's lives that are lost. So take this with a grain of salt, but it's bullshit. Wars, period, are bullshit, right? It's not wars don't necessarily are they're not necessarily based on conflict, right? They're based on an economic situation that turns out to where a conflict is started. It's like that's picking a fight, right?
Yep.
They're picking a fight, including other countries. Shit happens economically, and look at where we're at, right?
Exactly.
So
And
I don't.
not to say, look, I'm a prior military member among the members that are part of the university as well. But we understand what's really going on behind closed doors. Okay, we get it.
Right, and that's that type of statement, and for what I just said, and you not being offended by what I said is huge, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it takes an open mind to understand these things and see the results and say, damn, wait, this isn't just because there's an actual problem. There's a fight being picked, and now we're sending people of our family over there to fight it for us.
Exactly.
And that's the unfortunate side. Like, and that's why I say, like, this could be offensive to military individuals, because first and foremost, I respect our military 1,000,000%. Everybody that's in it, everybody that fights, everybody that wakes up in the morning and says, hey, this is my job and my duty to protect this country. So thank you for everything, for everybody that does watch this as part of the military. My mother was part of the military. My biological father was part of the military. My grandfather was in World War II. In fact, my mom was the first woman to work on Top Gun. So in that sense, I have military background, but do I understand that every individual that goes and is on that front line are pawns in the chess game? Absolutely. And what happens in chess? Which pieces are the first ones to go?
Yeah, them pawns are heading the war right there.
Exactly.
So it's just how the system is built. It's been like that. I mean, we've been talking kingdom times and things of that nature. It's just always how it's been.
Right. But the unfortunate side is that it's like a lose-lose, right? You are the pawn, but somebody needs to protect, right? It could be easy enough to just literally say, oh, let's just not pick these fights, right? But at the same time, these fights and these wars are economically beneficial.
Trade and economy, man. The trade and economy is where things are going to clash every time. And it always has been like that way.
Yep. You know? So going into that side of it, yes. So kind of circling back into where we were talking, right? We're talking about these debts and how it becomes a negotiating opportunity, right? Yeah. When it gets so bad and you have a country that gets economically ran correctly, they have the opportunity to say, oh, guess what? We'll buy your debt. So then that way you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about those debts. We're just going to pay it for you.
Right.
But every time that happens, how many people do you know literally just say, oh, well, I'll give you $30 trillion and you don't have to pay it back? No, no. There's things that happen, and that's where you start seeing things change. Policies change, this, that, and the other, trades, exports, imports, this, that, and the other, all that stuff changes, right? Because it's all based on that negotiating power. But we as the people that are sitting here working every day, we're the ones that get hurt the worst, right? And that's the unfortunate side when it comes down to this. And when it comes down to who's leading, me personally, I want someone who's going to understand, and I've been using this term fairly loosely, but I like this term, the macroeconomic side. Macro being the big picture. I want somebody who sees the big picture and who can plan ahead of time, right? Exactly. Like I've said, and we've said on other calls and other podcasts, especially when we did the trading plan one, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. Exactly. Well, guess what? Jerome Powell did that. I like Jerome Powell because as a trader, he moves the markets.
Every
But are his
time, man.
decisions good? No. The reason is because he's a reactionary individual. Alan Greenspan, who I absolutely love across the board, he was a person that got to see the macro side. And he
Right.
tried to prevent things from happening.
Right.
On the
Right.
other hand, you have Jerome Powell, that's the reactionary side. And
Jerome
he's
Powell's
really kind of
he's a lagging
in a bad
indicator,
spot.
you know?
Exact for traders, that's a perfect thing. He's
There
like
it is.
your your 6 EMA.
There it is. That's exactly it. So you better have a good idea by the time he's speaking, because he's just going to tell you what is kind of evident, you know?
Yeah, you know what though, as a trader though, it's not. It's kind of twofold. Like I said, it's kind of there's a downside to it, of course, and that's the reaction situation that we have to continue to live with every day. But as a trader, once you start seeing the patterns of what is said and what is done, you can start predicting, and it becomes easily predictable when you say, okay, well, Jerome Powell is going to react later. So I don't need to understand this right. I need to understand it, but I don't need to take action right now.
Right.
You know what I
Because
mean?
everything's just going to wait until he says what he says, and boom, there's what I've been looking for.
Yeah.
And it's been it's been very consistent, especially for me the last 3-4 months trading his news days.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we know that everything that they're doing at this point now is not enough. So if it's not enough and it continues to be the same pattern, and what do I mean by not enough? Let me start there. Over the past 10 months, right? We're in October, 9.5 months, right? We've had, what was it, 6? I want to say about 6 rate increases already. We were supposed to have 7 total. The 7th one is going to be at the end of November, right? But they were all supposed to be 0.25% to 0.5%. And then they boosted it to 0.75%. Well, that reaction situation where Jerome Powell said, oh, inflation, we're going to see how inflation works before we start taking these shots. Instead, because of that, and inflation skyrocketed, it's taking money out of our pockets. They're like, okay, cool. The first one, we're going to do it 0.25 basis point or 0.25%. So in that, or 25 basis points, right? And when inflation skyrocketed after that, I'm talking it went up in March. The first thing that they should have done is raise it by 1% on the very next one. Instead, they did it by 0.5%. So if they should have done it on the second one at a full percent, guess what they should have done on the third one? A full percent. What did they do? 0.75%. What did they do on the fourth one? 0.75%. They're not doing enough to fight the inflation. And why does inflation get fought with interest rates? Because as interest rates go, it creates less of a demand for loans, which includes mortgages, credit cards, personal loans, refis, anything that has a variable interest rate. I would challenge everybody, go look at your cards because they're all variable interest rates. All your interest rates have gone up over the past 10 months. And yes, what I'm saying would have hurt your pockets then, but inflation would have shot down. And why would it have also happened is because it would have stopped you from spending money. We're going to get into that in a second here because there's twofold to why inflation happens the way it does. It's not just the lending of money and putting it and circulating around and having it come back at a higher cost, but it's also on us as individuals to say, how are we putting it into the markets after they loan it out? We continue to spend and not hold on to it. Guess what? There's no absolute incentive for anybody to bring their prices down.
Right. And that's the expectation because they know they built. I've honestly believed just over the years, people have been conditioned to do exactly what they want them to do at the time they needed to do it. And as we see with situations like this, giving out money over 2020 and 2021, we're expecting you to come back and put it exactly back in the market. I'm not expecting you to invest. I'm not expecting you to go put real estate onto my market. I'm expecting you to put money back in.
And in that case, how long were they giving us money that was just ridiculous as far as unemployment, as far as PPP, SBA, all these different type of things that they were just providing money to us for, right? They sat there and said, here's all the money. And they tested us. What are you going to do with it? And we did exactly what they wanted. When those guys are playing, it's just like in the markets on the charts themselves, right? The charts are a psychological game. It's you versus that chart. It's not me versus Zay. Zay isn't going to move the market. I'm not going to move the market. So why would we fight each other?
Exactly.
Right? It's us against the chart itself. And the chart, they know what they're doing when they're pushing these prices up and down to premiums and discounts. They know exactly what it is. Right?
Of course.
Because they know how we're going to act. They're going to say, oh, you see this double bottom, right? So you think it's going to go up. Oh, well, guess what? We're going to do something that's going to cause a negative action to keep this downtrend continue going, thus taking you out. We'll go grab that buy side liquidity in about 9 or 10 months. We're going to continue pushing this down so you can go broke.
Right. And you've got to be like, man, it's all about being that adaptable trader. I know a lot of people, we've talked plans and strategies with our community all the time and making sure that you're, paying attention to how the market's adjusting, plus with the fundamentals of all. But the way I'm seeing things is like people get too acclimated to looking at the market one way. And when things get awry like this, they're not prepared. We're in an adjustable position. I don't think even in sports, you can't move the same fashion. With every team you play, you think you're going to run the same play. It's not going to work. Yeah. It's just not how we live. That's not even part of you as a human being. You don't work like that.
Right.
You have to continue to elevate and grow. So therefore, you got to keep adapting. So I'm glad we have this availability to be able to adjust and do that. But how can we help? How can we help others, Mike? What can we do to help some people through making that adjustment during times like this?
Well, let me just throw in a different analogy here for what you're talking about as being an adjustable trader type situation, right? Where you have to do things differently. For those that aren't traders that are going to watch this, but I guarantee there's going to be ones that aren't watching this that go to the gym. Do you work on your back every single day? Do you work on your arms every single day? Do you work on your legs every single day? No, you don't. Why? Because you need to continue to throw your body into something that's unpredictable, right? So you need to be able to adjust on that on the fly and be like, okay, cool. Muscle memory is a real thing. Well, guess what? Psychologically, it does the same thing as well, where if we become too predictable in the situation and we don't switch it up, guess what? We're all going to go broke in this market.
Exactly.
Right? Just like if you're in the gym and you do backs every single day, what's going to happen to your back? You're going to stop growing the back muscles because it's going to be like, no, we're just doing the same thing. You have to
comfortable at that position. We're comfortable
exactly.
at that position.
Exactly. The comfortable portion is exactly the problem, right? We need to stay uncomfortable. Exactly. We need to stay adjustable. We need to be able to see these things on a macro side. Now, a lot of people in trading will say, oh, technicals over fundamentals. I don't put one over the other at all because my technicals are used based on my fundamentals. And if I can see the fundamentals absolutely clearly, I can use a macro approach rather than a micro 5-minute approach. The 5-minute will just be my entry on a trade.
Right. But you're able to hold throughout a problem because, man, look, the way these fundamentals look, we're going to be dealing with this for a while. Could you imagine, for those of you that were smart enough to, because I know I was watching Bitcoin's head and shoulders for a very, 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 very long time. You would have to be insane to not have seen that go build its entire body out. Okay. So when something like that is happening, being able to say, okay, war is coming up. Okay. I'm expecting market crashes. I see what Jerome Powell is saying. I see what's happening with the Fed. I'm gonna probably hold this sell for quite some time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And speaking of that type of a situation, I want people to understand what's going on economically, and when we kind of tie in the conflict portion where war comes into play, right? And I said how we benefit economically off of war. Right now, I want people to sit down and look. If you're really interested in this and you want to challenge me on it, look at what's going on across the world, right? Right now, the war card is that ace in the hole, right? It's in the back pocket. It's going to be slipped out of the sleeve, right? And everybody's going to be caught off guard. Not this guy, not this guy. We're on the same page. The war is going to come. As
Well,
long as inflation, as long as this shit continues to be a problem,
yeah,
war is going to come.
like you said, this is the time to unify. This is the time when, if you're a individual type trader out there and you're like, dude, I have no idea what's going on. This is why we build these communities. That's why we build these groups, so that there's a place for everybody to go to get the information necessary. Because, dude, I'm not big fundamentals guy. I love having Mike to be able to break things down for me. So if I am in a trade and I'm like, all right, if that's what I should expect for the news to come, the fundamentals guy, the CPI, the PPI is happening, I'm like, all right, I know that I can stay in this trade for a little longer. You know, or I'm expecting, hey, this is going to come out and it's going to pop back on me. Maybe I need to close and maybe a re-enter on the pullback. You know, if news is going to do that. So
Exactly.
we're always prepared. We're always prepared.
And let's speak on the unification portion. Okay, a little bit here. Yes, I agree. We need to be more unified than ever. I think egos and I think pride get in the way of way too much shit, to the point to where it doesn't allow the unification, but things are thrown at you psychologically to get you to that point. It has to come within yourself to realize, wait a minute. This individual is a human being. There's no reason for me not like this person. I don't have to like them, but at the same time, I don't have to fuck with them, right? Pardon my language. But it doesn't ever need to go to, I hate you to the point to where we're gonna kill each other, right?
Right.
When that happens and we're talking about division of individuals, I want people to think of this and I'm not shitting on anybody here. Think of religion, think of race, think of economics, right? All these things are ways to divide each other. And guess what? It's one group at the top, and I'm not doing the conspiracy 1% shit. I'm talking about those that are playing the chess game, period. I don't care if it's 1% or if it's 2% or whatever. I don't care. Those playing the chess game, utilizing us as the pawns. If the pawns come together, oh, guess what? A pawn can win in chess. Just like pawns are taken out first, a pawn very well could be that last piece that takes out a king, a queen. Right?
I used to, not to interrupt your point, but I want to add too, I was military, of course, for like 10 years. And we used to say all the time, where I hear through the grapevine, the shit falls from the top, right? That's no different across the board, literally in any environment I could think of. And then prior to, while I was also in the Amway business. While I was in that business, people would always say things of, hey, it's a pyramid scheme, it's a pyramid scheme. But what structure is not built like this?
Right.
What company is not built where the lowest level is the lowest level and all the peons are down there? Then you got the managers, and then it goes further and further up, board of directors, so on and so forth. This is just what we live in. So with the shit falling from the top at a global level, when it comes down to the intricacies of how people are working with each other in ununification because of money, because of stupid stuff, it's happening at the top, it's happening at the bottom. What you gonna do? You got to be able to use, you got to think outside the box. You got to reach out to people that think like we think, you know, in the fashion of, no, now we're conditioned, but we understand what's happening inside that, you know, they try to not let us see.
Yep.
You know,
and all they do is on that bottom, you know, that low level. What do they call that in a regular job? An entry level position.
Entry level position. And how many people are in that position?
A lot. those are your pawns that are easily disposable, right?
Right.
Now it's funny because you say something and it reminds me. There's a movie that's I love. It's a comedy movie. It's called Pop Star. Never Stop, Never Stopping. Right. It's a Saturday night. It's put on by guys from Saturday Night Live.
Okay.
The guy that's on the Corona commercials with Snoop, right?
Yes.
It's funny because they do interviews with real musicians in there, and RZA was in there, and he said something that was comedic, but it actually goes with this a little bit. He said, the higher you go, the harder you fall. Just ask any coconut.
It's true. It's so true.
Right? So the higher you go, the harder shit is going to happen. And at the very bottom, it's going to hit the hardest.
Exactly. And then,
right?
And honestly, when it comes to things, you know, it's sad to say, but those entry level positions, you are cushioned. You are cushioned.
You're the
unfortunately.
first person to be disposed of. You're on the tryout roster, right?
Mhm.
So you're trying out for a main position when you're in the entry level. Okay, cool. Guess what? We've got 30 people. We have to bring this down by 12 to keep 18. Who are we going to get rid of? There's 12 people immediately gone.
There it is. And save me cost.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is ridiculous to me because it costs so much money. The thing is that it costs so much
Do
money
it.
to hire somebody
Yeah.
that they're willing to even do that. Don't take advantage of. You take advantage of the
No.
easiest work possible. Go through training and then quit.
A great guy I listen to, man, is Grant Cardone, and he says, dude, just use everything. Don't get too attached to nothing. Just use it all, bro. Just use it all. So jobs are there for you to even utilize anyway, because if, like I like to explain to my family all the time, if you can understand how they formatted things in the beginning, you can understand why things are they are now. And when in the beginning, they literally started their own businesses with whatever crops that they were making at the time, and sharing with others, bartering with each other, bartering with each other. And then eventually they're like, I need employees. They got storefronts and things like that. So I believe you should start in the job system and then create your own thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then provide that to the community, and then you're doing your part for wherever you live, of course.
Yeah, completely agree.
But so I want to get into the current times, things we're seeing right now with the market, the conditions we're in right now as inflation is continuing to rise, the things we're dealing with interest rates. We got CPI coming in this Friday, and guys, this is a bonus episode, of course, as I'll mention in the beginning, but this is important right now.
Yeah.
Everything that's going to happen. We're coming into Black Friday sales and deals. We got Christmas around the corner. People are going to be spending a lot of money, and the market's preparing in some kind of way.
Correct. So where we're at exactly right here today, right? So PPI comes out today. What is PPI? PPI is the change in the price of the finished goods. So the change in the price and percentage, right? Okay, so a year ago it cost me this. This is what I was going to charge. Now this is what it's going to be, right? That difference, and it's usually a month over month report, that comes out and it says, okay, cool. This is the change in your prices. And it went up. Okay. That's not good for us. Is that not good? Because the next one that comes out is called PCE. Well, the next topic is CPI, but PCE in order. PPI is the cause, the change in the difference. PCE is going to be what I charge you, right? As a supplier, this is what my cost to you as the merchant is going to be, right? So you have to pay me for the product, and I'm not going to sell it at my cost, otherwise I'm not going to make any profit. Right. So if my cost goes up at the end, and it goes up 0.4%, which happened today, with reading from September to October, it went over 0.4%. What would happen to you as the merchant? You have to expect to pay me more now, right? Because my costs went up.
Exactly.
So you as the merchant, now that's PCE. What are you as the merchant going to do to your customer? You're going to raise your prices as well. That is the CPI. Okay. So PPI stands for, Producer Price Index. CPI, which comes out this Friday, is, I had this wrong at one point. It is the Consumer Price Index, right? So when we focus on these in PCE, I forgot what PCE is. It's price, I forgot what PCE is. We'll get that out there for you guys. But regardless, they go all hand in hand. The one that's focused on economically, though, is CPI. That is what we're spending on these products.
Got you real quick. Personal consumption expenditures.
Okay, personal consumption expenditures. Gotcha. So PCE technically should be the catalyst to whether inflation goes up or not, because that's what merchants are paying for their products and what they decide they're going to sell afterwards. But the focus always comes on CPI, what we're overall spending. Now, if taxes go up, if prices go up on the product, if just anything goes up, that's why it's kind of focused on, because it's literally taking a hodgepodge, you know, of everything, of all the costs, and saying this is what somebody is paying at the end. It's not very accurate, but it is the one that shows what we're spending out of our pockets. Now, and that's the one that usually, when it's measured in inflation, when interest rates go up, we should see CPI come down. Granted, we should see PCI or PCE and PPI also come down. CPI is the one that we're all focusing on because it gets the most attention.
Right.
Again, that comes out this Friday.
Some heavy personal consumption here soon.
Exactly. That usually gets read. The irony for it is it usually gets read after CPI.
Okay.
So think about that. Okay, so think about that psychologically, right? The most important one comes out after the one that is emotionally driven. You think that they don't do that on purpose?
Of course they do.
They absolutely do it on purpose.
I need a heads up.
Right. So this is ways to be able to control your emotions, knowing this type of information. If everybody else is going to be emotional about this, let me not be emotional about this. Let me just understand what's going to happen, right? So with CPI, this is when our lovely president, Joe Biden, came out in August and said, oh, inflation is at 0%. No.
Where did you get that from?
They added 75 basis points in June, right? An increased 75 basis points in June that caused an absolute halt in lending and whatnot. And that's where we started seeing the turn in the housing market, right? The slight turn. It's been kind of steadily going down, but still very slowly. Why? Because they're not raising these rates as high as possible right now. They're doing it. They're trying to combat this on a slow turtle pace with the hopes that something will break without the housing breaking. That's not going to happen. The housing is the last thing to break. So when we're looking at when these numbers come out and Joe Biden comes out and says, oh, inflation's at 0%, no, it just didn't raise 0%. What we need to see is it come down, and it's not happening. So we can sit here and say we're almost at our 7th increase, which is at the end of November.
Yeah.
Why is PPI continuously going up? Well, guess what? Imports and exports cost more. Supply chains cost more, right? The supply chain portion costs more to be able to make a product. So until that slows down, and then until we stop buying, think about this, guys. There's a responsibility on us as the consumer. Stop buying.
Take control of yourself.
If you guys look at what retail sales and core retail sales come out to, which are a monthly report as well, retail sales include automobiles. That's your hodgepodge again. Regular retail sales. I'm going to go buy clothes. I'm going to go buy this. I'm going to go buy that. I'm going to go buy a car. Retail sales. That's the overall umbrella, right? Retail sales have actually gone up when everybody's complaining about inflation. Why is that, Zay? Because nobody gives a shit.
Obviously. People are acting like it didn't happen.
Exactly. And why do they continue to do that? Why do they continue to have that thought and whatnot? Because things like Powell coming out saying we're not in a recession because our employment is still very strong. That's a fucking lie. Completely. Pardon my French again, guys, but that is a lie. Employment is dropping just as fast as the housing market. We had a positive NFP reading last week, but it was less than the month before. NFP is the non-farm payroll that shows jobs that are being filled that are not agricultural, non-farmers, right? So it kind of measures what your normal 9-to-5 jobs are hiring at and how many jobs are being filled. It was positive because the forecast was low, and this is what they do. They lower that forecast to make sure that the number they want comes in where it needs to be. So you always gauge the previous to the actual, right? Forget that forecast shit. Look at the bigger picture, because if you look at the previous we had over 300,000 jobs, right? And that was in the month of August into September into October, we had over 200,000 jobs. So we were all like 268,000. So it's like a 50,000 job difference that we dropped. Employment is dropping slowly. And if you guys look at the stock market, this is exactly why last Friday, the stock market dropped. Oh, but the jobs are good. It should have went up. Oh, it should have, but they played with that number. They played with that number because investors now kind of starting to see that, guess what? Employment is coming down. I'm not having enough confidence in this. I'm going to pull my money out. When they pull their money out, they're pulling out volume, and it sends the actual drop. So just as the stock market dropped on last Friday, right? If people stop spending, meaning if they stop investing and they pull their money out and stop spending, prices will go down. It's right in front of us, guys. It literally shows that action right on these charts. When money is taken out, value drops.
You know how much money is required to move this market. So if that move, how big these sales have been, it's just like you see billionaires start coming out, millionaires start coming out, 100,000ers start coming out. It just teeter-totters down, shitting on everyone until we find a nice support.
Yep, but they got the people at the bottom that are like, oh, hopefully it'll go up because I need to make $1,000 for my rent.
Well, they got you putting your money in along the way, all the way downhill.
Exactly. Those are the people that are being eaten alive right now. And there's more of those than the ones that are actually pulling money out, which is why the poor are getting poorer, right? So if we're talking
people who with bare to minimum money, trying to put money into crypto right now, at least in the last 30 to 60 days, somebody somewhere is asked about putting it in. It's not time yet. This is why we get educated. This is why we got to know, because if you're one of them that's got to come ask, or imagine how many people who haven't asked, who just went and put their money in. Now they out of that.
Right.
Another crypto.
Exactly. And they're losing. And crypto still is going to continue to drop.
Correct.
It's going to continue to drop. And then as everybody buys the dip, it's going to take all those people buying every single dip. It's going to take them out.
Yep. There is an index I'm going to share with you. I saw come out. I don't know if I got to put it in our Discord, but they're tracking this. And there is a high amount of people who are not looking to buy the dip as far as the wealthy side is concerned.
Of course.
Personal traders are going to try. It's not going to work. But those big dogs, those hedge funds, they're not trying to buy no dips right now.
So can I drop some exclusive info here that we talked about the other night? Should I drop that?
Let's talk about it.
All right.
Let's get into them in the special.
So if we're sitting here talking about don't invest in crypto, don't invest in the stock market, pull your money out, pull your money out, right? Where do you put it? That's the question. Where do I put my money, Mike? Where do I put my money? What do I do? Buy precious metals. Buy precious metals.
Mike, what we got going on in the precious metals department?
Well, we have an opportunity. You guys can do this research as well. Stay on it because it's brand new. It just came out Sunday. That there's a bill that's being introduced to go back to a gold standard. Okay, so precious metals are going to have a massive amount of value and a massive amount of demand. In fact, a lot of investors, your guys at the top that are making a lot of money, they're taking their money out of the stock market. They're going to go buy precious metals. But they're waiting until the right price. Oh, but what's the right price, Mike? Okay, good thing that I use fundamentals and macroeconomics here because I'll tell you. If you want to buy precious metals, the first one I'm going to tell you is not going to be gold. The first one I'm going to tell you is silver. And the reason why is because gold is at this point, I think it's like $1,600. It's $1,670 an ounce.
Yeah.
And how many people have $1,600 just sitting around to go buy 10 ounces of gold?
More.
The ones that are asking, where do I put my money and when do I do it, right? They're the ones that cannot do it. So guess which one you want to put it into is silver because it's cheaper. Silver is sitting at like $19 and some change right now. It's going to go lower. So the price that you guys are going to want to look into buying and executing actual silver in is going to be $13.75. You're welcome. For those that listen, pay attention, you're welcome.
Remember that price point. Go to your chart, look it up, and see what's going on.
Yep, exactly. And if you need help with your chart, you know where to go.
You know where to go.
So that's my option number one right now, right? But if whoever listens to this, the first thing you're going to go do is start researching where to buy from, because you're going to be ready to buy right now. Third, we don't go in trading, we don't go by time frame. We go by price, right? Price is my clock. So I'm looking for 1375, but I do know that 9 out of 10 people are going to say, well, how long is that going to take? One person may say, nope, okay, cool. I'll just sit back and wait till I see it in the news, hit 1375, and I'll go buy.
Right.
But the other 9 people are going to say, well, how long is that going to take? How long is that going to take? My estimation is going to be within the next 6 to 8 months. And the reason being ties into everything that we're doing here, that we're talking about. Every decision that's being made right now is going to cause us to end out into a possible depression. We're not raising interest rates high enough. We're not actually stopping spending. And I'm telling you guys right now, the reason, think about this. In the holiday season, it's already been projected. Now, how can they project this? Because of spending habits over the past year. We're giving them the info.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, they're projecting the holiday season to be a $2 billion season. If you want to be honest, that should be a 0. If you want things to change, it should be 0.
It's not
I'm sorry, you're gonna have some disappointed kids here and there. But look,
Americans making sacrifices to do the right thing financially. Okay. Come on.
Right, exactly. I'm gonna sit here and I'm saying this knowing that whoever's watching this is like, this guy's crazy.
But for those of you that are listening, for those of you that are paying attention, you should already know this is a time where you should be stacking funds and sitting on your thumbs. That's all should be going on right now.
Right.
The rest
exactly.
Of a lot of people have come up. Don't get me wrong. A lot of people over the last two years or so with YouTube, IG, people starting businesses and finding support and making funds, and they're going to be the ones, even in the crypto people that have pulled out early and were smart about their money. They're the ones that's going to be spending like crazy this year. So you add them on top of y'all that barely have enough, that are still going to be spending. It's going to be astronomical.
$2 billion. It kind of blows my mind when we're sitting here struggling to buy food and gas. By the way, little ad lib here that we hadn't talked about. When we talk about inflation, we're talking about the first 2 things. This is why it's easier to see the microeconomic side. Shout out Robert Kiyosaki for saying this on Twitter. People see the microeconomic side because of food and gas, right? And that's what people are focused on. They don't see the macro side, which is the bigger picture of what's actually going to be happening or what's already happened, right? They don't care about that. They only care about what's here right now, right at this minute. And with some other information that we're going to kind of break here, OPEC a couple of weeks ago decided that they're going to stop oil production in the sense of sending it out and allowing reserves to be filled. So when everybody sat there for 99 days, ecstatic, traveling, buying gas because gas was going down for 99 straight days, and then it decides to go up on one day, and it goes up. It was going down about a penny to 2 pennies, roughly here, like every single day, right? And so that means we were about saving $1 within that 99 days. So we were about saving $1 from what we were paying before. And then as soon as it goes back up immediately at least 40 cents. So you wiped out 40 days worth of savings on gas in one day, right? That's horrible. Then OPEC comes out and decides, oh, well, let me tell you why that even happened. Because Joe Biden decided he was going to release a lot of our reserves, give you guys more supply so the prices can come down, right? Well, when OPEC decides that they're going to actually slow production down immensely, look this up, do your research on it. OPEC is the group that decides what happens with oil globally. The top 13 countries, Russia, Saudi, Kazakhstan, right? All these countries, they all get together and they decide what's going to happen and set the prices for oil. And they said, we're going to actually really, really cut back. So when you cut back on supply, say what goes up? Demand. When demand goes up, what also goes up? Price.
Yeah.
Price.
Just like we talked about earlier.
If you guys thought that $4 and $5 and almost $6 was bad, wait till it hits $10 a gallon.
Get up here. Wait till y'all still seeing 10.
We have never seen times like this.
They're not about to pay you more to match it.
Exactly. So I'm glad you said that.
Hey, look, I'm just trying to pay attention to this stuff, man.
The information that came out with NFP was jobs went up, unemployment percentage went down, but guess what did not change?
What's that, Mike?
Household incomes. So all the prices are changing and going up, but yet your household income didn't change at all.
Nothing.
So how are we going to, I turn around and say, how are we going to spend $2 billion? We're going to max out credit cards. We're going to spend the cash in there because brighter times are ahead, because that's what Joe Biden said on TV. No. Go back to what Jerome Powell said. It's going to be dark and it's going to be painful. Why are people not paying attention to this, in the sense that when he uses painful, meaning prices are going to go up on everything, interest rates are going up on everything. If you spend more money on your credit cards, right, guess what's going to turn around and happen? Your interest rates are going to go up even more. And then now you're talking about extra debt. Those that don't care or don't pay attention to any of this, those are the ones that are going to be filing for bankruptcy.
Well, look, we've got an increase of people not paying attention, because we live in a time where there's more and more distractions than ever before.
Absolutely.
So yeah, in the moment I'm upset about inflation, and then the next moment I'm at the mall, and then the next moment I'm having dinner, and then inflation is gone. Okay.
Well, yeah. Do you know what that's called though? That's called retail therapy.
There it is.
Retail therapy. People feel better. And I'll be the first one. I'll be the first one to tell you that, you know what? Saying these things, and I'm going to be one of those that says, do as I say, don't do as I do. Because when you pull up, look, this is funny. I'm going to share my screen with you guys real quick. Oh, you got to let me share it. I want you to see the #1 frequently visited website. When you're on Apple, it gives you these, so then this way you don't have to necessarily go all around here, there, and there, right? Look at my #1 frequently visited site, hatclub.com.
Dangerous, man.
Shout out Hat Club. Shout out Hat Club. But either way, I have my forms of retail therapy as well, right? I have my addictions. Everybody does, but this is where you have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm going to check myself. So that might be my most frequently visited site, but I haven't spent on there in a little while. And that's because I'm starting to recognize more and more what's going on. I'm sitting here, I was one of those ones that's like, hey, interest rates are going to go up, inflation should start coming down. But then I'm like, wait, what's the incentive for these guys to bring prices down if people are going to be willing to give all their money? I'm sorry, but you know what? If I'm, as a business owner, if you come to my food truck and you say, I want to buy all your food, am I going to stop you? No. Buy it all. Buy it all. Spend it all, right? Spend all your money.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be the one that says, you might not want to do that.
Come on, guy.
This person,
here. Come back in 32 years. Yeah, it's okay.
This person you're getting on this call tells you to check your spending. The one that's on the food truck, if you're not going to listen to me here, I'll be willing to take your money at my food truck. Straight up.
Pretty much. Because
you're going to be willing to give it to me. But think of that. That's just one individual. If my mind is thinking like that, think of what every corporation is doing at this point.
Right.
Oh, these people want to spend money? All right, cool. Go ahead, spend your money, because all these costs are going to continue to go up. So if there's no incentive for them to bring prices down, you can't expect change. The change has to start here. It has to start here. You know,
and every person that gets their mindset lined up to start to take on these new habits, and honestly, when it comes down to really is getting your family prepared for after this is all over more important to you than spending your money right now on things that don't matter. Mm-hmm. Are you investing?
I would rather be
knowledge, learn what you need to know that you can use, because I'm already looking to hit this real estate market very hard when it drops. And I've been learning and preparing for many years. So you want to be prepared.
Everybody go buy your houses. Go buy your houses. Like I've said a few times, the person that bought my house back in July of last year, July of last year, when it was at peak, which this whole process allowed me to be able to sell at a peak at a peak and not sell early or too late. I can understand where this macro portion is coming into play, right? So when I sold that house, the first thing I said was, I hope it's a conglomerate that buys it, because conglomerates can afford to lose them. And I hate these guys. All these guys are out here buying up these homes and then renting them out at 10, 15, 20% higher than what they should be. And rent is going to be going up for 10 to 20% every single year. Okay. Yeah. They're taking advantage of the pockets that are paying them. So those conglomerates, they can all shut down for as much as I care. I don't give a shit. I think that houses should be a personal asset to an individual to be able to change your life and get you on a road that you've never seen. Happened to me. I'll throw it out there. I'll tell you what happened with my house. I sold my house. I made profit, $220,000. So guess what I did? Not only do I trade, but I also went and opened up my business, my food truck business, which allows me to continue to do something with that money, right? And in that case, I'm going to be providing a service and providing a product. I'm going to be adding back into society in a different way. But because I was able to do that, like I said, that was an asset to me. I believe everybody should deserve that opportunity, right? Because you can do a lot with it. Now, what you do with that money is completely up to you. Some people may just turn around and go buy a car. A car is a depreciating asset. It does not appreciate at all. You drive it off the lot, you're losing 10%. Right, immediately.
I know some ways you can turn it into an appreciating asset, though. Talk to me later. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, there are ways. There are ways to do it. But the common way, nobody realizes. I want this beautiful car because I got this extra money. Oh well, guess what? You're going to pay that car note, but it's not going to be that valuable. Even now, because those chips are starting to roll in. Notice the prices of the cars are starting to come down a little bit, right? Yeah. Because people stopped buying. They were so high, people stopped buying.
That's one of the things that's like, why would I go get another one? But y'all will keep going to the mall and buying stupid stuff,
exactly, because it's cheaper. It's cheaper. It's not a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 car. It's a $10, $15, $20 shirt. It's like, it's no big deal. Why do I feel that way? Because I'm that individual. I can afford $100, $110 every week on my hats, 2 hats a week. I'm not doing that anymore. No, I'm good. I'm good. So the thing is with this is like, when you're sitting here talking about the housing portion and what was done, I told my wife, I said, babe, it sucks that this is going to happen, but we sold to a single family. That single family is overpaying on the value and on the interest rate right now. They got a better interest rate than whoever's buying it right now, or whoever is buying houses right now. Their interest rate is way better, but it doesn't matter because guess what? They're going to be overpaying for a house. So what am I waiting for? I'm renting now, and I'm renting because I'm going to go buy my house back. Yeah. That's exactly what's happening in this housing market right now. And this, I will tell you guys, last big gem, the next crash that we have, whether it's complete economic crash or whether it's just housing, just focus on the housing. If this gives you an incentive to not buy anything retail-wise and save your chips, this is going to probably be the last time you can buy a home as a personal asset. Okay. Why is that? Because conglomerates are going to come in. There's going to be some of them that are going to fizz out. Some of them aren't going to be there anymore. Those are the ones with the low volume, low inventory, right? The ones that have been in it for a few years, or the ones that are huge, that balanced correctly, there's going to still be some of them around. Guess what they're going to do? They're going to buy every single one of them up, because if you think 2008 was bad, 2023 is going to be worse. So that's what I'm saying. Like, give it 6 to 8 months before you start investing into silver. But if that's the thing, wait on your home. In fact, wait a year on your home at this point. I was expecting to change over the past maybe 8 months or so because things were rapidly going to be declining and it was going to hit hard. But The Fed has actually balanced it out to be a slow trickle, right? Which has caused me not to be able to go look and buy a home right now. Go rent. Whoever's renting right now, you're going to be able to be in a position as long as you do what you do to make your money. Me is my business and trading. Zay and his businesses and trading, right? Save your money. Go buy your last asset, because when it comes down to it, you're going to be one of a rare breed to own a home anymore.
Yep. This is our last hit. And I was telling people, and we talked about this the last 3 years since they started funneling money in the market. They're gonna have to clean this up. So we're seeing that market crash. It's so much money put in that to get everybody in position and actually give this market the ability to naturally rise is going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot. We're seeing the pullbacks happen. We're seeing the money getting pulled and things of that nature. So guys, prepare yourself. We want to end off with that. Be ready for this. Don't waste no time. Don't ask no questions. If you've been like 3-4 years, and I'm not saying don't ask questions in the sense of getting the knowledge, but don't question whether you should be doing the things that's going to put you in position. If you need to be learning this skill, you need to be getting with us and talking with us on how we can help you get in position. If you need to be going and talking to realtors, if you need to be going and talking to people who run businesses so you can get in that entrepreneurial, whatever vehicle it is, get in it now before it's too late.
Look, and I'll tell everybody this, because I actually had a deep conversation on Twitter about this. And this is where I think political parties really differ, right? So if I'm going to get a little political here real quick, we have the Republicans and Democrats, of course, and it's just funny because they play each other against each other each time. And it's clear, like I'm sitting here watching the Arizona debate for senator, right? We had Mark Kelly, we had Blake Masters, and we had Mark Davies or something like that. I forgot his last name. But this is how bullshit and clear that this play is. Mark Kelly, who is a Democrat, is sitting there, and his whole responses to every question are literally only targeted at Blake Masters. Blake Masters, who's Republican, all of his responses were directed towards Mark Kelly. What is this third person even doing here, if that's the case, right? He's there just to make people feel good that there's an independent individual on stage. They want us to go one or the other. Me, I am an independent. So I'm sitting here like, okay, I can agree with that and I can agree with that. And it's funny because he's the independent guy kept saying, oh, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and agree with Blake Masters on this. Oh, I'm going to go ahead and agree with Mark. That doesn't work.
We're playing both sides.
But here's the thing. Who should we have in office? Probably that guy. Mm-hmm. That's the irony to it, right? Because when you have a major win, you're going to take major losses, right? We throw a Democrat into office. What are we going to have? We're going to have economic losses, but we're going to have personal right gains, right? Let's talk Roe versus Wade, right? Those type of situations. When you have a Republican in office, you're going to have economic strength, but you're also going to have less human rights in that sense, right? When you're talking about, let's say, Roe versus Wade, right? Situations like that. I want people to understand that you're going to take a big win with a big loss, whoever you vote for, unless you go independent and start listening to these guys. The independent ones are right in the middle. I don't have a horse in the race at all. Like, I don't care about Blake Nash. I think he's an asshole. Mark Kelly, I think he's an asshole as well, right? Because when it comes down to it and they have their agendas, economically, when we're talking about the economic side of it, right, there's the common feeling from a Democrat liberal side is the fact that everybody should help each other, right? But the caveat and asterisk to that is no matter what. So then I ask, if you want me to fill your cup, but my cup is empty, how does that work? It doesn't. It continues to allow struggle financially and economically, okay? So think about this, guys. And that's why I would side with, let's say, a Republican on the economic standpoint, which I'll throw this out there, which is my single one and only support to Donald Trump. I don't like the guy for anything. I think he is the biggest asshole in the world. But will he get my pockets right? Possibly. right? Because of things that he knows how to run a business. But that's the thing. When we come down to politics, those guys aren't supposed to care about us, right? They don't owe us anything at all. So if you can get past the bullshit individual thing, like I might not fuck with you as a person, but if you help my pockets out, okay, great. Because at that point, if you help my pockets, I can then help others, right?
Exactly. Maybe empower somebody that has business side, but also has the political things I need.
Right. So this conversation I had on Twitter, and this is my suggestion to everybody. If you're going to spend $2 billion this year in Christmas and Thanksgiving and whatnot, take $1,000, which is way more than enough, open up a business. What you do with it is that is afterwards, I don't care.
Yes.
Open up your business. I actually had a conversation with the previous individual I worked with at PayPal. And when we had, she had a post, and let me tell you, her stuff, I've eaten her desserts and they're phenomenally delicious. And now she is having people on Facebook and Instagram and whatnot are like, yo, you should start selling this stuff. Her number one response, I can't afford the cost. So I hit her up and I said, yo, consider this, because if instead of taking you out to a nice dinner, which, you know, $200 these days, right? At least at a nice restaurant. I said, instead of anything outside of what I'm going to tell you, tell your husband to get this for you for Christmas, your birthday, whatever it is. I don't care what it is. Tell him to open up your business. And she said, well, doesn't it cost a lot? And I said, no, it doesn't. $300 in 10 minutes. And I had my LLC. What I did with it and adjusted costs afterwards and took those on was up to me. Right. But at least I owned it. Right. At least I owned it. And the conversation that I had with somebody on Twitter was when I said, I opened my business, I decided to do that on my own. He said, the response I got, well, it's just not that easy for everybody. Actually, it is, buddy. It is. You're just inclined to try. And the whole context of this whole conversation was the fact that, and it was a liberal conversation where I was the conservative standpoint on it. So I had a whole slew of people hating me. I was an enemy on Twitter for one day. And it was funny because it shows me how much division we have in this world and how clueless some people are, right? And when it comes,
Go ahead. I got two good points for you after that, on that point you're talking.
So when we having this conversation, all these guys are sitting here, they're name calling. I didn't say anything disrespectful to anybody, but yet all they wanted to do is take Jet. Oh, you're a MAGA supporter. No, I'm not. I'm far from that. So, you know, like it's funny because that's the assumption. And it's like, oh, I emotionally hit you because I told you that everybody can open their own business. I said, it actually is that easy. It takes a few $100s and a phone call, and you can open up your business. What you do with it after that is completely up to you. Right. That's at least you get a start. Now, the person I told this to, guess what happened? She went and opened her business. And within the span of a week and a half, she's already to a point where she's like, look, Mike, I think this is where my 100% focus is going to be. So I'll drop more information as the business starts going on, because I want her to be able, she's out in Indiana, I want to say, or no, Oklahoma. She's out in Oklahoma. Oh, wow. And she's going to start sending out her desserts. She's going to be able to ship them out. Right. But she has connections that she's uncovered that are ridiculous, that are going to help her business thrive. Right.
The entrepreneurial world is very helpful these days. I know back in the day it was a little shiesty and dirty, but entrepreneurs are helping each other a lot now.
Absolutely. And see, that's the thing. I helped her get started, and now she's running away with it, and every piece is falling into the puzzle for her perfectly, which caused her to continue moving forward. And that's why I say I don't care what you do with it after you open it, because I already know if you open the business, the wheels are going to start turning. You're going to start working, because now you have the opportunity of taking and controlling what is going to happen here in the future. You can't do that with a job. People have to go into work every day wondering if they're going to get fired or not.
Yep.
I don't have to worry about being fired.
Yep.
And I'm in the food industry, so do I have to worry about my food not being sold? No. We're going to have a following. We're going to have a lot going on with it because everybody needs to eat, right?
Yep.
Take what you have as a skill, build on that, open up your business, and instead of spending $2 billion on clothes, cars, hats, whatever, go open up a fucking business, guys. Please take charge, take control.
Yeah.
You know,
I want to give 3 points just to end off my thoughts on this section, because it's important that people understand, like we talked about, as far as this nation being started by business owners and that creators. I've always heard this. I want to say it was Hove. I can't promise that that's correct, but a mention of that this world belongs to the creators. If you are a person in creation, you have ideas, you have things that you want to bring to the marketplace, and you have these fears, know that this is the best time of any to start a business, and you can test it before you spend a dime. There are cooks and chefs right now that are popping because they went online, recorded themselves cooking meals over and over and over again till they got 10,000 followers, 30,000 followers, 100,000. At this point, I'm gonna just open a restaurant. Here's my restaurant. I already got out of 100,000 people. I'm gonna get a percentage of that to come see me because you've watched me cook online, and I have to do nothing but buy a camera and use my kitchen. Mm-hmm. You can already build the following out before you even start the business, before you even spend a single dime. And if your credit's great and your business helps society in whatever nature, you can walk straight to the bank and they'll cut you a check.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And there's ways to get business funding. There's ways that there's going to be there's going to be a door that it opens up for you every single way. And why is that? Because once you have that power and that control, when there's a will, there's a way.
Yep.
Things will fall.
A will, way, and a power control right in your hand that you pay thousands of dollars for. You can run entire businesses from, entire YouTube channels that are paying you now. IG's cutting checks. You got companies cutting checks if you got a bunch of followers. Don't make excuses here, guys. Utilize the power that's in your hand.
Yep.
In different times. It's 2022. We're going to 2023. There's no excuses. They've honestly let us prepare for this. They've honestly given us the opportunity to do something about what's going on before it comes to depression level event. Mm-hmm. All right.
And even if we're in a depression level event, guess what? If you have something that is valuable, even in, and that's what I would challenge everybody to do. Put yourself in the worst economic position globally, right? And that's what I did when I said, okay, what do I want to do with my business, right? Mm-hmm. I said, what is it that people always will need to do? They're always going to need to eat, right? What was proven in the pandemic? That retail businesses and brick and mortar restaurants will shut down. So guess what I did? If everybody needs to eat and a brick and mortar is easily shut down, and not just that, but has way more overhead costs than what I did, the only thing that came to my mind was open up a food truck.
And you ain't alone, because barbers were doing that. And funny, but strippers were too.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Around town, making money. You just gotta, be, that's that adjustable factor.
I can go to a customer. I can go to an event. I don't have all the overhead costs that a restaurant has. I can be able to serve you and you can go home, right? It's not a brick and mortar spot. I can control what happens with my business. Not just that, I can't up and take a brick and mortar business and go to one of the biggest events in the nation, but I can do that with my truck. You know, so think of that. Take yourself and say, okay, this is what I'm skilled at. This is what I can, this is the value that I can bring, right? Now with my wife, now I'm not necessarily the chef. My wife, and this is where kind of everything put together. She's Puerto Rican and she loves to cook. And I forgot who it was that said it, but there's a famous author that said it. If you're going to open a business, do something that you love, because you're never going to have to learn anything after that. right?
Exactly.
Because of the fact that you already have that drive and goal. There might be intricacies here that you need to adjust to, but if you do something that you love, everything else falls into place. So we're sitting here like, okay, we had a possibility of opening a notary business. I was going to do food blogging, stuff like that. And then we were like, no. I'm not a writer necessarily. I mean, I can write, but it's not a passion of mine. Yeah. Notary business are useful, but guess what's going to happen when this housing crash happens? Notaries are going to be useful and they can charge a lot, but there are some people that have kind of fallen off because it was an extra job. They went back to work for it, right? So we sat there and we were like, what is it that just stands out to everything? And she was like, babe, I love to cook. What can we do? And I said, holy shit. Okay, let's see with those other points involved and her loving to cook and being a passion of hers. It was a no-brainer. So I did my research. The food truck industry was a $1.1 billion industry going to 4.4 billion. And that's during this whole time, guys. So why am I going to not take my piece of the pie out of $4.4 billion that gets circulated in that, even then after that, like we saw with Forex, it went from a 6.3 to an 8.8 trillion dollar industry in a year.
Quickly.
In a year.
Yeah.
So guess what? Sit down and open your business. Think of a name for it, because it could be named whatever you want. Think of a name for it, open it, and then start the wheels being turned, because you're going to be more motivated than ever. So can everybody do this? Yes, you can. Mm-hmm. And even if you are in the position where income is not high, or you're getting some form of assistance, right? You can get yourself out of that. Yeah. You can start controlling and having the reins on your own life. And then guess what? I now have to pay a supplier. I don't have to worry about a business paying me a paycheck for 8 hours out of my day. You know what I mean?
And they don't want to no more.
Exactly. And they don't want to. And that's the thing. When unemployment starts going up and the employment numbers start going down and GDP continues to go down as well, we're going to be in an actual depression.
Yes. And that after something like this, after giving you guys this kind of game, I don't want, because I hear a lot, I've heard it from my parents, I've heard it from many people, that everyone can't be a business owner. But at this point, you're about to lose opportunity, because every day they're making something else that's going to do your job.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's you get in
the position of owning something.
Ironically enough, we spoke about this on our call the other night, and that was the fact that the JOLTS job openings report was over 1 million jobs less. But our job report for last month only said we filled 268,000 jobs. What happened to the other 800,000 jobs, Zay?
That's a lot of people not working, man.
Not just that, but eliminated jobs due to machine learning.
Over? I mean, easily.
Exactly.
I can sit here and go through a laundry list of stuff that computers are capable to do for us now. And I mean, I'm starting to see commercials for flying cars. I don't know about y'all, but I have.
Yeah.
Things are moving fast. And before you know it, you're going to wish you started that business. You're going to wish you became a trader. You're going to wish you got into real estate, whatever fashion of investing, or, building your own nest pool of pot of money, your golden goose. You wish you would have grabbed him earlier.
Yep. And I don't want people to sit here in a year, continue to struggle even worse, and then say, I wish I would have done this a year ago. That's why we're having this episode here for you guys now. And I wish that as soon as it dropped, it would have 10 million hits. Because out of that 10 million hits, I'm going to get 5 million people that are going to disagree with everything that we said. But I'm also going to get 5 million people that could actually turn around and say, holy shit, light bulb goes off. And you know what? These guys could be right.
Exactly.
It's just your way of thinking. It's just changing habits. Sit back and look at the actions that have taken and what habits it's forced you to create, and ask yourself, am I really in control of my life? You're probably not. You're probably not.
Great point, Mike. I want to end right there, man. Thanks again for coming. Guys, this is a bonus episode. Honestly, we're in works getting these episodes built out for you guys. Definitely ready to drop here next month, and you'll start to see that. But I had to get out here. Mike had to get out here. We had to give you guys something early in advance because things are getting crazy and getting wild right now. So we want everybody to be prepared. Be ready. Those that in a recession are in a recession, and those that's not, they not. You get to choose, and you're gonna do what's necessary to be in either category. All right. So I appreciate you, Mike. Thanks again, brother.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And I will be here whenever you guys need me.
Most definitely, guys. I'll see you in the next one. This is ITUTv podcast, and I'll see you in episode 1 later on. Peace.